A very good afternoon and namaste to all of you. I am Rashmi Misra, the founder president of VIDYA, and on behalf of the VIDYA family, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all for episode 4 of the VIDYA Knowledge webinar series. We hope you've been enjoying our knowledge series so far, and today our webinar is on creativity and inspiration with a very interesting topic, dance and its possibilities in education. We love and appreciate each one of you for being a part of our growing social movement and participating in each webinar organized for you with such great interest. The Vidya Knowledge Series is a weekly webinar and focuses on holistic learning and aims to cover education, skills, wellness, empowerment with leaders and innovators of all walks of life. This year, 2020, marks the 35th year of Vidya's service towards education and empowerment of less privileged children, youth, and women. We have 78 projects spread across the country in 5 metros that have impacted 3,75,000 children, youth, and women through our holistic learning modules of education and skill training. Our effort is to create a total child and provide him skills of life, for life, that allow her and him to dream and behold hands till they realize that dream. We aim to create leaders of civil society. We create citizens who will in turn educate, empower, and transform their own communities. I am really proud of all our Vidya teams of teachers and leaders who tirelessly work towards the Vidya mission and vision every single day and work with our core values of Vidya, which are excellence every day, people matter, acting with integrity, thinking forward, and global citizenship. We work like a very big family, and we have one great mantra, which is educate, empower, and transform. Vidya has always believed in the importance of the arts and its arts have been a part of our curricula and our teaching. The pride of learning classical dance, classical arts, music, theater, sports brings such a great understanding of our very rich culture and our heritage. Dance is the joy of movement and the heart of life. I was very fortunate myself to have been an Odissi dancer in my youth, and it brought me so much joy and so much understanding of our classical music, our mythology, and our very rich culture. I remember the very first few students of Vidya, I taught them maths with dance movements, and they never forgot that lesson. Dancing is a mix of art and exercise which connects the mind, the body, and makes one sharper and much stronger. It is deep in the heart of our culture, and it's part of the pulse of humanity. I am delighted to welcome Padmashri Geeta Chandran today for our webinar series. We are so fortunate that we have this celebrated artist, star performer, and reputed Natya Acharya, Bharatnatyam multiplier, Geeta Chandran, skillfully weaves abstract notions of joy, beauty, value, aspirations, myth, and spirituality. Geeta is the founder of president of the Natya Vriksha and is the artist director of the Natya Vriksha Dance Company, which has for over 30 years provided inspired learning to hundreds of students. In her effort to endance the universe, she engages in strategic range of dance-related activities, performances, teaching, conducting, singing, collaborating, organizing, writing, speaking to new youth audiences. Geeta's niche interest includes environmental protection, gender equality issues, hygiene, arts, education, and being a spokesperson for the larger cultural issues that affect so many artists. Her enthusiasm to teach and spread the message of dance, bridging all the gaps between tradition and the modern times, is unique and so remarkable. She's a member on several school boards, college boards, and the Government of India committees. She's the recipient of the Padmashri in 2007, the Sangeet Natak Academy Award in 2016, and the Tagore National Fellowship, which is 2019 to 2020. I share a very special bond with Geeta ji, as we are both alumni of Lady Shri Ram College, New Delhi. She was awarded the Distinguished Alumnus Award for her incredible contribution to dance from our alma mater. We are really proud and look forward to your performance, Geeta ji. Our moderator for today is Samyukta Ninan, disciple of Guru Srimati Geeta Chandran, who has inspired her in many ways to pursue her dance under her guidance. When I called Samyukta, she surprised me by saying, "So we go back a long way, Mrs. Misra, and life has come full circle because I volunteered with Vidya 14 years ago and I learned so much from the Vidya family." So it's so delightful to reconnect with you, Samyukta. And we look forward to having this relationship going now. No more we're going to lose you ever again. She's a PGT in history, teaches at the BlueBells International School. She has several interests with her dance. She also does heritage walks. She writes plays. She works on you, Samyukta, with a lot of love. A few house rules before I hand over the mic to Geeta. Guru Geeta Chandran will take your questions at the end of her talk. Please ask your questions in the Q&A section and not in the chat box. Now what we're all waiting for is to welcome our great Padmashri Geeta Chandran to enlighten us on her talk on dance and its possibilities in education. Over to you, Geeta ji.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Vidya, for asking me today to talk in this very prestigious series, which is so well curated by Rashmi, a series on creativity and inspiration. For a dancer, it's always very difficult to talk. It's much easier to dance, believe me. But today, when Rashmi asked me, I started thinking, and I thought, how could I address this very large, rather daunting subject of dance and its possibilities in education? I thought I'll break it up into 3 different segments. The first segment is going to be the journey of Natya Vriksha, the institute that I founded in the early 90s, and why Natya Vriksha. The second part would be what I saw in schools and what I gathered where dance was placed in school education during my schooling, when I watched my students' schooling, where was it placed? And the last part is my engagement with integrating dance into formal education, which I have been associated with in the last few years and thinking very hard as to how we can do that. So I think these 3 segments I would take separately because they are very different and they need separate focus. The first part is, of course, Natya Vriksha. I started learning dance when I was 5 and I started teaching rather young. I started assisting my teacher, Sri Dandayudapani Pillai's younger brother, K.N. Dakshinamurthy, who settled in Delhi, and I would assist him in his classes. And I learned to teach sitting with him. It was not that suddenly one day I started teaching. So he used to train, he used to sit there and ask me to do the Nattuvangam, to sing, to recite the jatis, to correct the students, and he would observe and always comment. This went on, and then after a few years, he asked me to set my own institute up. And he said, I think now it's time to take responsibility and set it up. I was rather nervous, but my co-traveler in this, Rajiv Chandran, my husband, and me decided that let us take the plunge. Because by then we were observing, and I had my daughter as well at that time, and we were observing that there were a lot of gaps in formal education. And we thought, what would be a better way than to teach dance and try and address these gaps? So Natya Vriksha was really a dream. I never thought that it's going to become a big institution or it's going to become, very large. I always thought small, and I wanted to make an impact with the people I interacted with. So I began with just about 5 or 6 students. And what I thought were the gaps, I should come to that because it's important. I thought mythology was something that was not being addressed because that was the time when the whole thing of nuclear families had started. Grandmothers were no longer telling stories to children. Amar Chitrakatha had gone out of fashion. So I think that whole transition was happening. We all went to missionary schools. We had a certain kind of education. And my students also belonged to the same category. So I thought mythology was one of the things that I needed to take up. I needed to take up tradition as a whole, because I really felt that there were a lot of missing links as they were learning, and everything was really put in silos: science, arts, commerce, and you had the arts which barely existed. Nobody knew of its existence. So that is the fine arts. So this was very structured in the schools, and I thought the children were also getting very blocked, and they were categorizing it in their head. So I thought that in a dance space, in a studio, one should allow them to explore color, texture, form, beautiful objects, craft, textiles, movement, music, rhythm, the joy of telling a story through dance, and of course exploring the body. That was the other thing. Those who were engaged in sports were the ones who were doing some kind of physical activity, but otherwise you could get through school without much engagement with the body. And I think I read somewhere that in your daily chore, you use only 20% of your body potential. You don't even know what the body is capable of doing. So all these were the things that set me thinking. And I started thinking of a pedagogy that could bring together all this. Though I learned dance in a very strict kind of a discipline where dance was taught with the idea of just performing, I realized that that was only a small part of the learning of dance. The process needed to be enriched. The process needed to be extremely fulfilling the soul. You needed to come into poetry. You needed to come into reading literature. You needed to come into revisiting mythology, because we always had learned it in black and white, and we needed to see the grays. So there's so many things that one needed to do in order to really understand and contextualize tradition. We of course, each of us encounters tradition in our own homes, in our own environment, but we need to contextualize it constantly and adapt it. So I think that's what we wanted to do in Natya. And I realized very soon with my first few years that many of my students came from homes where education meant getting a degree and getting a job. And that's all. And they needed, of course, every parent wants their child to be economically independent. So they all went through school, through college, and they wanted to be economically independent. So I realized that many of them would not take dance as a full-time vocation. That set me further thinking as to how would the arts really nurture their soul, and how could it be a companion for them, whatever they did. How would it change their mind and heart and body so that they can take on the stress of life. So I started viewing dance in a much larger canvas than just learning dance to perform. So I think it involved this whole trying to create a space where you would not be judged, you would not take an exam, you would learn it at your own pace. I mean, these are things that children don't do in formal education. So if you teach them another way, I would never say that you need to do it by next class. You need to introspect about it. You need to think about it. You can take 4 classes for it. So I've had students who joined together, but they've jumped classes, stayed in a certain class, and still been happy and found their own balance and equilibrium. So I think these were some of the things that I understood. But as we started teaching, as we started evolving, we realized that performance was also important, and we had a few students who were very engaged with dance, and we started discovering this multidisciplinary students who would work, who would come in the evening, really dance as though there's no tomorrow, and go back to work the next day. So we realized that it's possible to keep dance as a very serious passion and perform and still be doing something else, because dance, as we all know, is a difficult discipline to be in and to keep your kitchen fires burning. So this made me engage with them with the body, because they were getting exhausted. So we needed to look at ways of replenishing the energy in the body and trying to also educate the different kinds of people and spaces they were working in. It's amazing, because many of the people they would work for would say, listen, I have given up my passion long back. Please go and do your dance and follow your passion. So it was a question of educating them. We would call them to programs and we would make them see sense in what we were doing and what is the level of excellence that we were trying. And all this went on. So the other thing I think which is very important for today's generation of youngsters is the rigor of dance. I think the rigor of dance is very important for everybody, because sometimes what happens is, in our whole thing of giving a very kind of a free space for the children, they forget that rigor is very important in whatever you do. So unless there is passion, rigor doesn't come. So you have to create that interest and passion in the children so that the rigor can happen. I come to my second point, which is the way dance is taught in schools. I might ruffle a few feathers here, but I'm not talking of these only the elite schools that we know in Delhi. I have got the chance to travel to lots and lots of schools over the last 20 years that I have been working with SPICMACAY. We've danced in basketball courts, to makeshift spaces, to tables put together. We've danced on them. And what we've realized is that actually we don't even know what the performing arts are. You know, it's all over so easy. So it's just taken for granted, whether it's our folk forms, whether it is our regional music, whether it is painting on the walls, it's all taken for granted. So it's very painful when I, as a guest, am taken to a school and I sit with the principal and, a grand speech is made. And then suddenly the principal asks for the music teacher, the dance teacher, and he says, hey, and I just feel so sad, because immediately I realize the children sitting next to me, what the principal called the English teacher or the science teacher with the same kind of casualness, I doubt it. So I feel this kind of a thing can really make the children around feel, what is the status of a music or a dance teacher in the school? Why should we do the arts? Or why should we pursue something like this, even if we are good at it and we are passionate about it? Why should we do it? So I think for years, we have marginalized the performing arts, the visual arts. And we've said this is tokenism. And what many times I've asked, what is the mandate of a dance teacher? And many times they say, ma'am, we have to do the 15th August, we have to do the 26th January, and we have to do an annual day. And that's it, So I really have to say that we need to really think as to what is the mandate of the arts teacher in a school. It is not this. Certainly it is not this. And certainly, I think in the hierarchy, the arts teachers feature nowhere. This is my second observation about the arts. And this is true even in the school I went to, where I was just taught one or two folk dances. And because I was good, Mother Superior would come, I would be asked to do a Bharatanatyam dance, and it would be flaunted as though the school has done a great job, when the whole thing was what I had learned at home. So it was okay. The school took pride in it, and I was made out to be a star, and all that was fine. But many of my peers didn't know what I was doing, or what they were not even aware of what my engagement with dance was. So I think there's this big disconnect. We don't know when we say the arts have to be taught, how do they have to be taught? What is the way forward? Now, the third point, which is how do we move forward? So I came into the board of many schools, and I had friends who gave me a free hand to actually explore the possibility. And these were remote schools. These were not the elite schools. These were schools which had very mixed backgrounds. And teachers, the first thing was when I met the teachers, they introduced themselves. I am a Kathak dancer. I am a tabla teacher. So I think the first thing that we started doing is to say that we are from the performing arts department. I think we had to begin that way, because everybody saw their domain as very small. So we had to actually say that this is the performing arts department, and there are 20 of you here, and you all need to sit together. You all need to work together. You all need to see what is it that you all are trying to do, and what is it that you want, and how do you want the children to engage. The second thing was, in the management, I sat with everybody and I said, what is it that we want our children to come out of school and have in them? What is it? So that we can work backwards. We have to see, what is it? The first thing is that you cannot create, Yamini Krishnamurtis and Bala Saraswatis with the school education with limited time that you have. So the first agenda is to create rasikas, to create informed audiences who engage with what the artist is doing. So we moved backwards and we said, how do we do this? This everybody knows, but what is the way forward? There were many things that we came up with. This one session would not be enough to actually tell you the kind of steps we started doing, because creating rasikas was the first thing, was to inform the children about the range, the variety, the excellence, the sophistication, the colors, the content. There was so much in India. And if you are in a particular state, you don't even know about your own state. So we said, begin with your state, begin with the language, begin with the culture, begin with the heritage, begin with the weaves, the festivals, the folk forms. I think it's amazing that we have so much around us that we really take it for granted. So information is the first thing. When a child comes out of school, at least he must know Yakshagana is from where, Mohiniyattam is from where. If you say Dastan going, from where is it? Has you watched it? Do you know where Bihu is coming from? Do you know where Poikal Kudrai is done? So I think this, at least this range of existence of all these forms, the children must know, experience, see, watch. And today, I think with the click of a button, you have so much of material that this is the first thing that I started developing little content based on videos, and the whole archive of Doordarshan is available. You actually have conversations with legends like Biju Maharajji, Durgalalji, and I think Sitaraji. So Gopi Krishnaji, sorry, the three of them dancing together, and this is actually available in public domain. So I think there's so much that you can show the children, and seeing is believing, and excellence has to be shown. So these are things that can be easily done, and we decided that there will be one class which is common to So because the main problem is in class 6, you ask the children to choose. You ask them to choose music, dance, or keyboard or tabla, and that they do only that one activity. They don't know what their peers doing in the other class. So we decided to have common classes. They watch films, they write about it, they discuss, they talk amongst themselves. So the idea was that if you choose tabla, it doesn't mean you don't know anything about dance. You have to know about dance. And if you're choosing music, it doesn't mean you don't know anything about painting. You don't know anything about theater. So this kind of thing of segregating the children and saying, of course, it's important once you know that there is excellence in a particular child, and you say, yes, now to enhance your talent, you need excellent training. Hence, you can look for a guru and you can tell the parents or whatever it is and say that this person needs excellent training and send. But otherwise, what is it? So I really feel the whole approach is arts appreciation in schools and not trying to really teach the children the art that is so demanding and so difficult, and the rigor that is there. I don't think the time is there. The syllabus is so large and there's so much to do. Rashmi wanted me to dance because many of her teachers, she said, had not seen dance. And so I was wondering, because on the Zoom, it's a little hard, but however, I'm going to do something that I had done many years back, nearly 20 years back, when I was started thinking about all this. And I would have many of my friends in LSR telling me, oh, I like your dance. I love the costume. And I like the last bit you did, you know, the fast number, dim, 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 something lana or something. That was very nice. But they wouldn't engage. They really would not go beyond this because they hadn't really got into the experience of dance. So these things kept going in my head. And I would always think, what is it that I need to do to be able to make these people more sensitive towards dance? So this is a little thing that I did in order to demystify one aspect of dance, which is Shiva Nataraja. And we just did the symbolism associated with Shiva Nataraja. And I'll share that with you. And you can see how one particular posture, one frozen posture, what it can say and what symbolism is associated with it. We see it in the foyer of a hotel. We see it in our houses, in the airport. But have you ever really thought as to what does it signify, and why did Shiva raise his left foot and stand in the Nataraja posture? So here is this little bit that I would like to share with you.
Shiva. Explanation of iconography. Shiva remains an eternal mystery. His duality is bewildering. On the one hand, he is nirguna, without form, both omniscient and omnipresent. He is also saguna, with form. And in this, he is often depicted as the vortex of the universe, the Nataraja, king of dancers. His dance depicting cosmic energy. The image of Nataraja is indeed very profound. It portrays the deity not as a static entity, but in kinetic animation, which could reflect equally the intercosmic dance of the galaxies or the subatomic dance of the neutrons. Shiva represents the proto-male. His phallus, the lingam, is said to be the axis of the universe, the fount of regeneration. From destruction springs creation. Break to make, break and make, break, make. The eternal story of creation. As the Nataraja, his outstretched arms represent the twin forces of creation and destruction. In the one he holds a rattle drum, representing the great sound, the logos from which all creation springs, the Big Bang from which time and space both flash into being. Shiva's drum is the symbol of creative activity. In the other, Shiva holds fire, symbol of destruction, the inevitable counterpart of creation. The third hand, in the Abhaya Mudra, says, "Do not fear. I shall protect as I shall destroy." And his fourth hand points to his raised foot, which in turn points to salvation, symbolic of the release from the spell of Maya. Shiva's other foot dances on the demon Apasmara Purusha, who represents our egos. Only by suppressing one's avidya, ego, can one attain the Godhead. Shiva's matted locks, a nimbus of straight lines curving in space, connote the complexities of human existence. These locks are crowned with the crescent moon, denoting the waxing and waning and the shifting of time. And from those locks sprouts the river goddess Ganga, representing eternity. Eternity and purity. The cobra snakes coiling on Shiva's arms, neck and body again represent vibrant and dynamic cosmic energy. The Kundalini, the power which resides at the base of the spine and which, when aroused, leads to the transmutation of consciousness. These snakes also represent change, and adorned by these snakes, Shiva presides over change. He wears a garland of skulls, a reminder that death comes to one and all. He also wears one male earring and another female earring, symbolizing the concept of Ardhanarishwara, the creative fusion of male and female entities into a single divinity. Shiva's third eye depicts him as a god who is all-seeing and wise. This is thus the seat of wisdom. Shiva opens his third eye to destroy evil. The circle of flames around Shiva symbolizes both the arch of nature and the continuity and eternal motion of the universe through the paths of creation, preservation, and destruction, the vast, unending cycles of time. His Vahana, or vehicle, is the bull, Nandi, symbol of strength and constancy. And Shiva's consort is the radiant Parvati, the Earth Mother Goddess.
Thank you. I hope you could see something, because once I start dancing, I really don't know what's happening there. A few things that I forgot to say in the last section, where we are talking about viewing dance or viewing any of the physical activities or the creative activities with school curriculum. I think the biggest thing is to bring everyone on the same page, the subject teachers, the arts faculty, each need to have respect for each other. I remember in school and in college, whenever I had to leave for a rehearsal or for a program tour, they would say, jao jao, fail ho jao aap mere subject mein. Now, you know, one dealt with it. But I think you need to facilitate if somebody is good in something and somebody is passionate. I think teachers have to go all out to see that that student really comes up. It's much later that when I had friends as principals across schools and colleges, when I had students studying there, I used to make them understand that this is, the child is, the student is actually going to represent India with me in a very international dance festival. It's a matter of pride for the school or the college. So it's not that the child doesn't want to study, but the child has to be given that space to be able to do this. So I think this is also an important aspect where the biology teacher must understand that the arts are important, that the maths teacher must understand and find out where the links lie. So in the school that I was working, I asked all the subject teachers to actually attend a performance done by the faculty. They're all performers, you see. And when they saw them perform, even the students saw them perform, they said, wow, suddenly they were looking at them differently, because they never performed in their own school in front of their teachers and students. So this was a way of actually, for their own self-esteem and for the others to look at them as performing artists was very important. So that was one step that really worked. And the other thing is for the music and dance teachers to actually sit in the scholastic classes and observe and see what are the things that are being taught in a particular 3-month semester, so that they can find where the connections can be and which are the classes that they can bring in that interface and bring in the arts so that it can become more interesting. So I think there are many ways, but the first thing is to engage. I think we need to engage with the teachers. The first thing I said, Yakundendu is being sung so many times. You have a Sanskrit teacher in your own school. Why don't you call the Sanskrit teacher and get some nice Saraswati hymns and set it to music? You have a music department. So we looked at other Sahitya, which would work. So I think poetry needs to be brought in. storytelling needs to be brought in. All these dots, which are all there in the school, the resources are all there, but it's a question of tapping the resources within and having them all, actually come face to face and interact and respect each other. I think this becomes very important. I know I have exceeded time, Rashmi, sorry. Sorry, Samyukta. I think I can now hand the mic over to Samyukta.
Thank you so much, Akka. As usual, your performance leaves me absolutely mesmerized. I don't know, I started when I was in college. I think I saw one of your first performances, and since then I've been following you, and now thank God you've taken me into your school. I'm so glad. I always feel that one of the most beautiful things about your performances are how you get so completely immersed into a piece that you have curated. And the other thing that really fascinates me, Akka, is I think over a period of time, because I was studying you and trying to understand where you come from, all dancers come with a very, very strong traditional, very strong traditions, and, when I was reading about you, you started very young at the age of 5 years. And most people would be surprised at how is it that a 5-year-old child is engaged into something like classical dance. You've had some very, very amazing teachers, and they have shaped your world quite a bit. Could you give us a glimpse into that particular world that you grew up in?
That's a very interesting question, because we were not from a generation which had too many choices before us. The choices were made by our parents. My mother took me to a dance class. My mother took me to a music class. In our homes, there was so much music always, because there was his master's voice, the LP records running from early morning when I got up, and my father had a very large collection. So I feel that environment was already there, and I was taken to concerts from age 2, dragged along, and I would put the talam for the Tanyavartanams and sit up and again go off to sleep. So I had watched a lot also. So I think the decision of taking up or learning dance was my mother's, who wanted me to have formal training in dance. But I think your question about the teachers, they were very, very conventional teachers. I still have a scar on my teacher, actually, through the talam at me. So just very, very strict. But the point is, you admired your teachers, and your parents fully trusted and believed in them. And these two things, I think, were a deadly combination. Because even if I felt demotivated once and came home and said, I'm not going next class, my mother would just hear me out. And promptly, the next class, she would pack my bags and say, let's go. So, there were no choices. And but my teacher was so talented that you were always in awe of her. She could play the veena, she could sing a whole Carnatic music concert, she could dance, she could teach, she could compose, she could direct the musicians. So, and you just were in awe. And you said, even if I can do 1/100th of what she can do, would be amazing. And no compliments ever in class. Never would she say that you did something well. She would call my mother separately and say that, yes, this girl has promised and she's done something, but don't tell her. So, this was the old school of teaching. But, we were in awe, really in awe of her. And that, I think, was the bottom line. And the way she sang, the way the 2 diamond nose rings used to flash when she moved, and the abhinaya she did. Every day it was a new discovery that we were into. Every day she would sing the line differently, she would interpret it differently, and you would say, what is this endless store? Where is it coming from? So we understood, we really didn't know the name, creativity, upaj, improvisation. We didn't know any of the names, but we found it fascinating. And later gurus added dimensions to that, and they were all so giving. So when I today actually think of this whole thing of ownership, of copyright, of that, of this, we come from a very, very flexible tradition. You go to Khajuraho, where is it signed? Autographed? Has anybody autographed it? Even the king has not put his mark there. Who's the patron? To whom it belongs according to the Copyright Act. He has commissioned it, so it should be his property. So I feel, yes, it is all required, but our teachers were phenomenal. You know, they would do something and say, see if you like it. If you don't like it, we can play around with it. You know, so it was always a question of creating, dismantling, creating, dismantling. So, you know, this whole process was so like clay, you know, you created it. So that, I think that process was amazing. And always my music teachers were very good friends with my dance teachers. So, you know, again, the synergy between music and dance. Most of the time, my music teacher sang for me for dance. Yes. So it was wonderful to have that connect as well. So music and dance really were together all the time.
So Akka, it's absolutely amazing because you are an educator, you're an innovator, and your passion for dance reaches out to your students. And I know this for a fact that I have been very much part of an audience where you've also sung for us. And it is remarkable how beautifully, again, like I say, you get completely mesmerized, you get immersed in how you're performing, and the music and the dance, they all resonate a huge part of your personality. How have you used this tradition that you have got from your teachers, this really age-old tradition which you're carrying forward so confidently? How have you engaged that very tradition with your own students in Natya Vriksha? Because, you know, you come from a traditional, your teachers were very, very traditional, but you are very different. So how have you?
Yes, I talked about Natya Vriksha and the vision for Natya Vriksha. I think when I started Natya Vriksha, I was very, very certain that the same pedagogy is not going to work. You know, if I throw something at my children, I'd be in court or I'll be in jail. So there was no way that that kind of training would work. But having gone through formal education, having known my audiences, having known the parent profile, knowing the students from which schools they were going, what they were doing, I think it was important to understand all that and create the pedagogy, because you, as I said, contextualizing tradition is very important. There are many things in tradition that are beautiful, but you need to sift. You constantly need to see what can work and is it resonating with today's children and is it working? That needs to be like even something like Navarasa. You can contextualize it for today in this lockdown. You know, it can be done, and you can feel, you can see the emotions that go past. So I think contextualizing tradition is a very important thing. Holding on to it and just saying that this is the way it was taught, why was it taught a certain way, why that revisiting each time is very important, and to find logical contemporary synergies are very important. So I think that's what I tried with my students. I don't know how successful I have been, because I always feel I could have done much more and I could have engaged them much more. But yes, it's a learning curve all the time. One is learning. And I feel my first lot of students, the way I engaged with them is very different from the way I would engage with your daughter. That particular group is coming with a different basket of skills. They are coming with visual vocabulary. They are into the screen, unfortunately, more than what they should be, but they are a visual lot, you know. So I think there's certain skills which we need to take into account and maybe develop those and see how we can build those connections.
And this is where, you know, I feel, Akka, what you are doing is absolutely amazing, because, you know, I mean, in your own way, you are introducing different concepts to the students without them even knowing. Hopefully, you know, as they grow older, they start, how do I say, they've absorbed so much that they're able to understand, assimilate things much faster. But you see, the role today of educational institutions and educators is beyond the textbook. It is beyond what they are teaching in class. And there's a huge sense of responsibility that we all have towards our kids, creating a sense of belonging, a strong identity towards your country's heritage, the past, the present. How do you think we as educators can really, really effortlessly put this to practice in our classrooms?
No, nothing is effortless. It requires a lot of effort. Because to make a lesson interesting, I am not a painter, I am not a visual artist, but I have to know visual art. I must know, I don't need to know painting, but I must know what in bone is very good, what in some other form is very good, a peacock, the way it is brought out, or the sun, the way we were doing in the class the other day. Where is that resource? I must know at least that. So the information and the training required for the teachers, unfortunately in our country, you are a subject specialist, you know only that. That really cannot engage. You have to go beyond. How will you go beyond the textbook if you don't have that exposure? So this is what I have always been saying, that teaching of the arts is very difficult. You can have the best curriculum. I have been in NCERT doing the curriculum framework, but those kinds of curricula cannot be taught by the teachers you have on ground.
Absolutely.
The training is not adequate. So to make that, I think first we need training the trainer. You need to have additional training for those teachers. Either the school does it or the state does it. I don't know. I'm not into that. But I think the training of the teachers is absolutely essential, and it has to be interdisciplinary there. They have to understand that there are those connections that they have to make.
Absolutely correct, Akka, and I think that is the key to moving beyond the textbook, because the 21st century learner is not the same how we were when we were in school. They are curious, they want discussions, they want debates, they want to learn, and I think we have to start catering to those needs very, very quickly. Akka, this is a personal question, because I know that I have a huge love for mythology, like the way you have, and I know that you always have encouraged us to read up primary sources, and I've taken up, reading of the Ramayana from our last class. And I just wanted to ask you that, you have really, when you curate a performance, and I know some of the most memorable performances are the one that you did on Ravan, which was fantastic. You had done something on Kaikeyi, which was equally amazing. You've picked up these very interesting characters from the epics, and they have, and when you look at the televised depiction of these characters, they are completely different. So as somebody who has used primary sources, and when you see these kind of characters being, played in a certain light, what was your view on this?
Revisiting characters has always been interesting for me, because when we were in college, we were reading a lot of these people who wrote about Draupadi, revisiting Draupadi, her character, because we were always taught black and white, and Sita is a good character, Kaikeyi is a bad character, Ravan is a bad character, Ram is a good character. So I think that looking at the primary source never says this. It's subsequent interpretations that we make it very simplistic by creating these divisions. When I started working on Kaikeyi, and when I started looking at Valmiki Ramayana, nowhere does he paint her as a very negative character. But however, nobody names the child Kaikeyi in our families. So I think there is this question of interpreting our texts in a certain way. And as we were discussing in the last class, that there were 5 or 6 episodes of the Ramayana on television dedicated to this Lakshman Rekha, when there is no mention of Lakshman Rekha in the primary text. So I think it's so ingrained in our psychology, this Lakshman Rekha. So to the extent that you almost use it in a way to push back women. So, so I think these interpretations and these pass downs are sometimes very misleading. And that's why I always say, go to the primary text. Just read the text. Unfortunately, our children don't do Sanskrit. They cannot read the text. However, at least authentic translations need to be read so that they can at least understand the story the way it has been written.
Absolutely correct, Akka. And I think, and that process of going through primary sources is a fantastic process, I have to say.
And also the questioning.
Yeah.
Questioning, you know, we encourage that in class to ask questions. And I think that's very important. Even in formal education, I think that's the other thing, considering there are so many numbers and so many other problems. I think that one-to-one trust in the teacher and asking questions is something that we don't encourage.
Yes, because it is seen, if a child asks too many questions, he's asked to sit down and be quiet, which I think is very sad. I would like to have questions in my class, have kids who engage. Akka, today the 21st century learner has a lot of challenges, okay? I mean, the children sitting in our classrooms are not kids who are, you know, they don't lead simplistic lives. Our kids have become adults even before hitting the age of 18. And they are dealing with some pretty heavy issues like anxiety, depression, restlessness. I was reading an article where they said that age group 13 to 18 is, you know, the adolescent period that we're looking at is when issues of anxiety, depression are pretty high. And these have now, as you see, they are on a high rise, you know, and all educational institutions and all the educators who are sitting here can definitely vouch that educators are doing their level best to help out as much as possible. But there is something else that needs to be addressed in society, in schools, amongst parents, amongst educators, amongst forums that deal with, you know, safety and, you know, protection of children. So how can we use dance as a fantastic medium to help our children cross that adolescent bridge, you know, which many of them they are facing? Yeah.
Yes, I think dance is essential, and particularly in the lockdown period, I have realized that dance class has become a family engagement where the father, the grandmother, everybody is sitting and trying out hastas and mudras and things like that because they look forward to it. You see, the child needs physical activity. The metabolism needs that kick. The metabolism has to be pushed. And that's why I feel sports and any kind of physical activity, particular dance, it could be folk dance, it could be jazz, it could be any kind of dance, really has to be integrated so that that becomes part of your routine and you learn to actually help your body give out some of the what should I say, hormones that need to keep you upbeat. And I have seen that after a dance class, invariably children are happy, red and flushed with circulation. And so I feel any activity which is close to your heart, which pushes your body, I think it's absolutely essential, particularly in this lockdown. I was planning to close down class in June and I got all my parents saying, no, please don't close down anything. So I feel physical activity in a typical school is not enough. So I think we need to make more time. We need to give that priority over other things so that we ensure physical fitness. Physical fitness is the first thing for mental health. You need to be physically fit. And that, I think, is the key to a lot of things. That's why I recently did a workshop for non-dancers. And I just put different kinds of music. You know, ditang bole, a folk music. Then I put Tchaikovsky. And you know, the body just moves so differently to the different kinds of music. So I think it's not about formally learning dance. Even if you put any kind of music and just dance, you know, it is catharsis for some. It is getting out all the negativity for some others. It's an aesthetic engagement for somebody else. It is therapeutic for a third person. Everybody engages with dance in a different way because there are so many aspects in dance that you can pick up.
Absolutely. And I think that, thank God, Akka, that you've kept that we are still coming for class, because this is probably the 2 days when I really, really look forward to coming, interacting. And I have to say, it's not just dance. There's a lot of intellectual stimulation that we get out of our classes, which I really, really, I think that's benefiting me. I enjoy it so much. So Akka, we were talking about how COVID has been a huge eye-opener for many of us. And when we look at, educational institutions, many of us have had to, shut down our schools, and we've taken classes online, and a completely challenging world has opened up for us, online classes when we take. How has this online world impacted you? And the whole idea of dance now is being seen through online, how has that impacted you?
Before COVID, I was really asked many times by my, students who move from Delhi and go elsewhere as to how to continue the dance classes. Why don't we do online Skype classes, etc. And I was a firm believer that dance has to be learned in a studio, one-to-one. I have to customize a movement. I have to work on the body. How can it be taught online? But in the first week, I was pushed into online classes, and I said, for the health of my own family, I need to give that sense of continuity for my students, to say that all is well. It was more therapeutic than anything else, why I started, and a whole new world opened for me. I must say that I was very foolish all these years not to do it, and I had 12 of my international students first asking me and telling me, now you're doing it for your own students, you better do it for us. So I have one group of international students who are also doing online. So I realized that there were many wonderful things you could do online, and dance teaching. And I think I'm going to write a paper on how pedagogy has changed after I have started online. There are so many things that work so beautifully online, better than a real class. For example, Abhinaya. When I do a movement or when I do a certain hasta, it's right in front of you, my face is there. And the children said that we've never enjoyed Abhinaya as much as we are enjoying in an online class. So we are doing much more of Abhinaya, theory, discussion, debates, getting in experts to talk to us. So I think the possibilities have opened up. Somebody is staying in somewhere in the US can also be brought in, asked to talk about something. So I think, and I'm enjoying this whole space right now, where teaching is much more, I have to plan my classes. I like to do physical activity and then come on to some kind of a project that I give them. Then I talk about their well-being, how are they, just talk to them. And then maybe show a little extract from my work or the work of some of the seniors, so that they get to watch more dance and more music. So we play music, we teach music. So I think it's becoming what started as therapy, has now become a holistic way of learning, where there's visual engagement, there is engagement of the mind, where we are expanding the canvas of many things which we thought was only this much, now is suddenly becoming this much. So the possibilities, because of the visual possibilities and the possibilities on media. So I think, yes, it's a whole new world for me. I have learned, I know how to operate the Zoom all by myself. I feel very empowered.
I know. It's a great feeling, Akka, because I have to say, as your student, we've come closer. This has been a very difficult time for us. I teach in a school, and it is very difficult, I have to say. But thanks to these classes, you feel very grounded, you feel very connected, and it feels great. One of our members in the... Yeah.
All the teachers were pushed into it with no training. I feel bad about that. That the teachers were pushed into this situation with no training. So some of the schools where I happen to go often, I did a few sessions to actually address the teachers and say, what are the things they need to take care of when you go on a session, and how you could actually have the attention of the children, because here you have no control. Suddenly somebody is in a room opening a fridge, the child is looking there and not giving you the attention that is required. Somebody opens the door and the child is looking there. So you have no control of the environment. So the communicator has to be very, very careful, and not to have too long a session, break it up, bring in other things. So I think there's many ways of doing it, and we all need to put our heads together and maybe train the teachers much more how to actually face this situation.
Akka, one of the members in the audience has asked a very beautiful question. How does dance benefit the soul of a person?
You know, it depends on your level of engagement, because if you engage with poetry, and if you read Meera, I've been teaching Meera in the last week, and you understand the whole spiritual journey of Meera, you place her in context, and then you take a piece which has beautiful music, and then you relate to that. You know, so I think there are very many layers, and then you cross all that and bring everything together and completely immerse yourself in a piece.
Yes.
Mora mukut pitambar sohe, gale pe jalti mala. Mora mukut pitambar sohe, गले पे जलती माला, वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे, वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे, मोहन मुरली वाला, मने चाकर राखो जी, मने चाकर राखो जी, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो जी, मने चाकर राखो जी, मने चाकर राखो जी. So I think it's just not just a piece, it's the whole context of understanding spirituality, understanding Meera, understanding her Unmad, a complete, you know, boundless kind of love for Krishna. So it's very hard to explain how you can teach something like this. You have to be in that, and you know, kind of get yourself immersed in it, and that's when I think you discover things or spaces in your own self which you didn't know existed.
How beautiful, Akka. Only you can so beautifully, poetically and articulate these things. One question which I understand how some must be from a student generally, he's asking, I could be wrong, but he's asking how to convert passion into profession. How does one convert their passion into profession?
You should be having the ability to take risks. Because we all want it all, you know, we want a stable job, we want a salary at the end of the month, also pursue our passion. Not possible. When I gave up my career and I came into dance, everybody said, oh, she's kooky, she's gone completely mad. Why can't you do that and do this? Everybody does, you know, multitasking. I was one who always, you know, engaged 110% in one thing, whatever I did. I was not somebody who was comfortable doing 20 things at the same time. So if you're really passionate about something, you have to be able to take risks. You have to say that I'm going to take that plunge. I'm not going to look for certain things that I would otherwise, you know, be in a comfortable position. And you would know 10 years from now, you would be here 20 years from now. But in the arts, unfortunately, there is no such ladder. And, you know, the search just goes on. So I think that risk-taking ability has to be there, which I feel is sometimes pulls people back. And that's where I think converting or making a passion a profession becomes a bit of a problem. But once you take the plunge, I think you go all out and you survive. I mean, I've had a young mridangist who came to me who had done his XLRI, and he came and he said, I don't want to take up a job. I want to do mridangam, and he's well trained in mridangam. And I said, yes, Natya Vriksha is going to support you and you'll be here and let's journey together. So I think you find ways of making yourself follow your passion and also earn out of it.
Akka, our last question today is basically about this entire series. It's a leadership series. And you know that education in the 21st century is about building very strong leaders who are not, their vision should not be a narrow vision, because it has a drastic impact on the way a nation really strives forward. We need leaders who have a holistic vision, where they are embracing diversity of thought in every way possible. How can creative arts and the performing arts take a lead in creating a platform that builds strong leadership qualities amongst our students in school?
Arts is only a tool in your hand. You learn the tool and you can say what you want. Just the last year, we did something called Anekanta. Because Anekantavada is from Jaina philosophy, where you celebrate multiplicity. You celebrate diversity. There is no one absolute truth. And through dance, we brought out this multiplicity. Am I audible? I think there was a glitch. Am I audible? Yeah. So I think dance makes you think and makes you understand creativity in all its facets. It's not just, it's not tolerating something else. It's embracing it fully and loving it and, learning to respect it. So dance has so many ways of doing small tirmanam, multiple ways of doing it. So there is no one way which is right. There's always so many ways of doing something. There are so many routes that take you to that excellence. So I think all these things, when it comes to when you're talking about celebrating, multiple realities and embracing it and learning to live with it and celebrate it. So I think they cannot be a better way than dance. And I think dance brings together, as I said, music, philosophy, spirituality, the best of literature and poetry. So I think that itself gives you so much exposure, directions, that your canvas is rather large and you learn to live in that canvas happily.
Thank you so much, Akka. I think it was an amazing experience, and all the things that you share with us today, really, I hope that, we as educators and educational institutions, we really think about some very, very pertinent things that you have talked about. And I, as a teacher myself, there's no other better way to express than dance and music. And I really hope that, we carry forward what you all shared today. Over to Pam.
I just have no words to say thank you. We are so enraptured with your beautiful thoughts, Geeta ji, and your performance. Your passion came right through. And I think everybody who's there today is being touched and moved, transformed with your thoughts. So what you shared about dance and about how bringing it into everyday life, we will be delighted. I think this concept of the arts appreciation, I love that in schools, how we can all share that together. And we would love to have you as part of the Vidya family, our teachers. They will, I mean, you're just so amazing. We are so blessed. You are with us and you taught us this direction. It was in our hearts. And what you said resounded so much in my mind, because we are looking at that holistic education. We are looking at creating leaders, know their culture, know their background, and can take it forward to the world with pride and joy. Is dance. And I really wish every child could be your could be your student and learn from you, because what you give is so much more than just teach. You give your whole to this. So I just don't know how to thank you, Geeta ji, and I'm sure this is the beginning of many things that we will do together. And I'm totally blessed that your time, your energy, and all your passion. I have to thank Rajiv ji too, as you call him, your co-traveler and your husband, because he is the strength and his voice was there very strong. So please thank him from our side. And Samyukta, proud of you. Because
I have two very inspiring women in front of me. I feel charged up now. I'm ready to take on the world.
You're amazing. There are questions. We have many more questions, but I'm sure we can do it offline and you can to answer them. So I don't know how to thank you. It was just the most amazing session. Thank you so much, both of you, really. And I want to thank all our viewers for joining us today. And we have a recorded version, which is going to be on the on YouTube link. So please share that with your friends and family. For those who missed, they missed a fantastic. Also to tell you that on 5th of June, which is next Friday, we have another very interesting session. It's called Reach Out, You Are Not Alone. As you know that Vidya works with a lot of women. We educate, empower, we teach life skills and teach them lots of vocational skills. So we have an eminent who will be share issues of rights of women, domestic violence. They're talking about law and remedies which your organization, they can go to in case of need. So we would like to know that if you can share, we'll be sharing that invitation very shortly and would love you to be a part of that. Vidya at today has 15,000 students, children, youth and women on our roads today. And we are reaching out to every beneficiary during these very difficult times, offering them all the support, including emergency kits and whatever they need so that they can manage these very difficult times. What we really need, if you can help us, is second-hand phones, laptops, computers or tablets, because our children have to now learn from home. And this is going to be the way forward. They'll be learning from home, even if it's dance. And just to share with you, learning dance from at home through a phone. I asked the dance teacher, how do you manage to teach? He says, they have no space to dance because they're in slums. So they were dancing on the bed, learning from the teacher. They didn't stop the enthusiasm. So what we're looking for is even a small contribution, which can make a very big difference, can be greatly appreciated by all of us. If you want to know more and how we're dealing with these COVID-related issues, to know about the new episodes that we're bringing in, we have Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys talking to our children in 13s. I would love you to attend that. And his ideas about education and India. Education is the only answer to the future of India. And we would also like you to visit the website so you get to know more about Vidya. So we are so delighted. This is going to keep us all on our feet and dance. I want to get up and dance right now. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for inspiring us, you. And I want to wish you all the best. And thank you so much for attending the session, all of you. And see you again very soon. Stay safe, stay well. And namaskar. Namaskar. Thanks. Okay.